I think I finally know how to word my feelings in regards to when I say that life is weird. When I say life is weird, I think I'm more so trying to say that I have become hyper aware of my own existence and therefore hyper aware of other people's existence, or what I at least perceive their existence to be, and just finding everything to be so incredibly odd because of that. And let me explain. I've kind of grown to see myself as a sack of meat and bones with a neurological network, right? And this neurological network, the neural pathways or whatever it is, I'm not a scientist, but the neurons in my brain, and I guess sending signals down my spine, those are the things that make me act. Whether the function is thinking, or the function is something physical like walking, or the function is talking, whatever the function is, it is all tied to the brain. Like even our personality, and please don't quote me on this, but I think a lot of our personality is even kind of embedded in our DNA. I could be wrong, but I think I've probably read a study sometime about how twins who are separated at birth get together, have very similar interests, and they seem to be most of the time very compatible. Again, I could be wrong about this, but I think that just goes to show that certain things really are just embedded in our genetic coding. And that sounds awful. That sounds so awful. I don't want that to be misinterpreted, right? But think of things like generational cycles or generational curses. That's something that we talk about a lot online. I'm breaking a generational cycle. And yes, a lot of those things are, through nurture, aka through environment. My grandparent was traumatized, and therefore they traumatized their kids, and their kids ended up being my parents, and they traumatized me in the same way. And so these generational cycles cycle on, generation through generation, from someone in the cycle not wanting to learn from this and move past it. So I do think there's that, but I also think there are a number of things that carry out with us generation after generation through just literally our genetics. I kind of see it as code building out code. Because if we're nothing but on and if DNA is nothing but on and off switches, kind of like a binary for computers, and we have our neural network in our brain the same way that computers have neural networks. What makes us to think that the code that's being generated isn't following after its predecessor. And so and that's why when it comes to AI, people are always well, it's humans programming these AIs, and therefore what makes us think that these AIs wouldn't be at least somewhat reflective of their creator, right? So I kind of see giving birth that way. When you choose to conceive life, these are two codes, I guess, intertwining with one another to come up with this new piece of meat with a neural network. And that sounds so messed up. That sounds like I don't have empathy, which I do. But I think because I'm so aware, or at least I feel like I'm so aware that I'm just neurons in a machine, that I feel bad for myself and for others often. Because I'll see someone who's not going through a good time, who might be having a public manic episode, let's say. I look at them and I'm this person is not crazy. I feel so bad for them because their neural network, their coding isn't doing what it ought to do in order to fit in this society. And I feel so, so sad because it's like we don't have the space to be human. It's like we repress all the things that make us who we are. And maybe that's why I've been feeling like a neural system in a machine. Because that's literally what I feel like. I feel like a machine. I feel like a cog in the machine. I feel like a cog in the machine. Yeah, I think that sounds about right. And because I feel soulless, I am reducing myself to the physicals of these neural networks. But yeah, like lately I've been thinking that there is like nothing beyond that. There is no abstract I guess like cloud of consciousness that is currently in my body, or that I'm currently embodying, or like I don't feel like there is like this abstract concept of a soul and that soul continues forever. Because I just been feeling so void of that life, of that I guess not consciousness, but like the thing that would make me feel as though there's something greater going on inside of me and beyond me that doesn't go past neurons and atoms and, etc. I think because I've just been so sad, I just keep thinking of myself as a malfunctioned set of neurons. Like, I think I really reduced myself to the physical building blocks on a microscopic level of the human body and the human system. Because there was a point in which I was going through a better time in life, and I really felt that fire, that soul inside of me. But yeah, because I have been feeling so low, I feel like there is a malfunction, or not even a malfunction. So like an event could trigger something, could trigger a change in your behavior, right? So let's compare that to like bits on a computer. I probably had a certain behavior that was at 0 until a certain thing triggered for it to turn on and become 1. And so now I exhibit said behavior. So I see my sadness as a mistake in my code that I might have done, or that might have occurred to me along the way throughout life. And as sad as that may sound, I think there is a silver lining, right? If we are nothing but codes, and also neuroplasticity is a thing, right? So you can also, I guess, like morph the way that neurons go about your brain. I don't know the exact science. If you can do that, then there's hope, right? It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of discipline, a lot of strength to change those neurological pathways to something more beneficial to you. But it can still be done. It's not impossible. And slow and steady, I think I can work on my neural network and on my coding so that I can function in a way that is more beneficial to me in a society. But like, damn, now that I think about it, that sounds so soulless. I guess I just have to figure out what my priorities are, right? But I do think maybe getting my genetic code, I guess, corrected would mean becoming more human, doing things like singing and dancing and yoga and whatnot, and finding a higher spiritual power. Like, I think those could also be very, very beneficial to our quote-unquote coding. And I think that gives me a more positive view in which you can be this human full of life in a meat sack, and the abstract can't exist within the physical. Maybe I'm a dualist. Who knows? I'm kind of just rambling.